So let's go to our React application now. We have app.tsx file open. Currently, we'll be making the change over here only. While this component is getting loaded, we are trying to fetch the data for property listings. What I'll do is simply create a function. Let's name it fetch property listings. And what we want to do is we want to fetch the data. Over here, we'll have to give our API URL. And once we are calling this URL, then what should happen? We'll take the response, which is expected as JSON, and the data that we get, we are simply just doing a console log of it. So for now, we are simply fetching the data, and once we receive it, we are doing a console log of the data. Now this is the function that we have defined. We are going to call our function so that it is executed. I have saved the changes. Now what should happen? Currently nothing will happen. We'll have to specify the URL as well. So let's go over here, and we have the request URL mentioned on this particular page. So we'll take it and just paste it over here. I'm saving it. I hope none of you are confused. We have simply called our API URL for the get method, and we are simply doing a console log of it. Now once this is saved, what we'll do is just go to the browser and open console. I'll just refresh the page. Now what should happen is, I am telling you beforehand, we should get an error. The data should not load as of now. As expected, we have got the error. Why this is happening? Because the React application and .NET Core Web API application both are rendering on different domains. If you see over here, the localhost :5173 port is different from the Web API port, that is 7238. So the origin of the domains is different for the two applications. That is why the API is not able to accept the request from a different domain. For this, we'll need to make some changes in our .NET Core Web API to allow it to accept the request from this React application. So let's go to our .NET Core Web API, and we have program.cs file over here. So this is where we'll need to make some changes. What I am doing is simply mentioning a property where I'll be giving the allowed origins. This means which origins of domains this particular API can accept the request from. So and then we have builder.services. We want to add course. Then we'll need to mention the options over here. Options dot add policy. We'll have to mention the name, and the name is going to be this particular variable that we just defined. After this, we'll have to mention the ports as well. builder dot with origins. So here we'll have to give the allowed origins dot allow any header dot allow any method that is origin allowed to allow wildcard subdomains from these particular ports. And after this, we'll just give the URL from the React application. And let's give one for local host without any port. I'll save it. But once we add the course policy, we have to let it know that it has to use the course as well. So app.use course with the same variable that we just added. Saving it. Let's run the API. So API is running. Let us just execute it once to check if the API is returning the response well. Yes. Now we'll go to the React application. I'll just clear the console and reload the page. So great. We're getting the data properly from the API. From dotnetcore web API, we're able to see the data over here in the React application. So I hope all of you have understood that we just performed a read operation in the React application. Basically, there are four main operations: create, read, update, and delete. This is the read operation that we just performed from the front end utilizing .NET Core Web API and SQL as DB. Now we'll simply map our data that we have got as the response from the API to these styles.